With 750 military bases worldwide and a defense budget worth over $800 billion, the United States of America has been the most powerful country for the past 80 years. However, as we enter the age of artificial intelligence, China's military force is projected to outpace the US in drone warfare, hypersonic technology, cybersecurity, and naval ship production, all while tensions between the two global superpowers continue to escalate.
Xi has ordered his military to be capable of invading Taiwan by 2027.
China's military said today it's ready to fight.
The threat China poses is real.
Amid the threat of war over Taiwan and the rising tensions across the Indo-Pacific, the role that AI will play in the future of the Chinese-American conflict will most likely redefine how cold and traditional wars are fought.
US intelligence had no idea that China had moved this far ahead.
The country that is able to most rapidly and effectively integrate new technology into warfighting wins.
Yet to truly understand the most dangerous arms race in history, we must first explore the conflict's origins and examine how the different policies on AI taken by these two countries will shape the future of world order as we know it. Ever since the end of the Second World War, the United States has built an economy so powerful that it has shaped the global financial system and made capitalism the gold standard for developing nations. However, despite the success of America's economic and political models, not all countries shared the same vision for growth. In 1978, China's most influential leader, Deng Xiaoping, challenged the foundations of the vast majority of capitalist ideals that were shaping the Western world. Through a series of economic reforms, he revolutionized the Chinese economy by blending a capitalist framework for global trade with an authoritarian form of governance. The media is entirely owned by the state. Criticism is censored. Data is owned by the government. Surveillance cameras are everywhere, and even private businesses are required to align with the goals of the ruling Communist Party. Although China has since become the second largest economy due to these reforms, the limited freedoms of its close to communist rule are entirely at odds with the American model of freedom.
President Xi Jinping's speech killed off the idea that China will ever liberalise.
His message to them is that there is no future for China without it being run by the Chinese Communist Party.
These differences, together with China's growing global influence, have sparked intense rivalry with the US, as both countries seek to shape the world order according to their own ideologies. While America believes it should use its power and influence to spread capitalism as the main engine of global development,
the advance of freedom leads to peace.
China insists that authoritarianism drives long-term stability and growth.
China has built large infrastructure projects in almost every country in Africa.
To see the system that China is now spreading around the world, you only need to look at the neighbouring countries that fall within its sphere of influence. In total, 18 countries are known to be using Chinese facial recognition.
However, even if the future seems to be heading towards an ideological confrontation between the two global superpowers, there was once a time when China was a capitalist country and a strong economic partner of the US. From 1912 to 1949, the Republic of China was governed by a single party known as the Kuomintang. Like the US today, this government embraced free markets, private enterprises, and freedom of speech. It wasn't until the Chinese Civil War of 1949 that the Communist Revolution, led by Mao Zedong, overthrew the Kuomintang, forcing them to start a new life on an island just 180 kilometers from the mainland. Today, thanks to its entirely capitalist economic model, Taiwan is recognized worldwide for having the best chip manufacturing capacity for AI processors used in smartphones, computers, and military defense systems. The Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company is the primary chip supplier for NVIDIA, the largest American company that designs the world's leading AI hardware. Yet, while being a technological superpower can guarantee economic growth and leverage, it can also make you the primary threat to countries willing to do anything to reach their goals. According to a 2023 US military defense report, intelligence officials discovered that China's mission is to reunify with Taiwan by force and build the world's most powerful military by 2050. Other sources, such as US intelligence agencies and Pentagon officials, suggest that a Chinese invasion of Taiwan could happen as early as 2027. If China were to invade Taiwan and seize control of its semiconductor infrastructure, the balance of power for the rest of the 21st century will most likely tilt dramatically in China's favor.
When China invades Taiwan, the consequences will be global. In a world where China dictates the terms of international order is a world where individual freedoms erode, authoritarianism spreads, and smaller nations are forced into submission.
However, to prevent a shift in global order, the American government considers it a moral and strategic obligation to safeguard the island from China and maintain balance in the Indo-Pacific region.
We will not be pushed out of this critical region, and we will not let our allies and partners be subordinated and intimidated.
According to the Taiwan Relations Act of 1979, the US affirms its commitment to providing Taiwan with the means to defend itself and resist coercion in the case of the outbreak of a war. In 2021, the United States, the UK, and Australia established AUKUS, a trilateral security pact designed to enhance military capabilities in the Indo-Pacific. It includes nuclear submarine deployments, forward operating bases in Australia and Guam, and intelligence sharing networks stretching along South Asia's coast. In addition, they have strengthened their military ties with countries like Japan and the Philippines, including deploying over 100,000 US troops stationed across the Indo-Pacific. As the threat of war is no longer theoretical, both countries invest heavily in AI development to gain an edge in future warfare and prepare for an imminent battle for Taiwan. However, even though we'll explore what an AI-driven war over Taiwan could look like in the last chapter of this video, many haven't realized that the battle has already started. Not the battlefield, but on the invisible front lines of data, algorithms, and semiconductors. Drone warfare, hypersonic missile technology, cybersecurity, and naval production. These are the 4 key areas in which China is ahead of the United States in military modernization that is driven by artificial intelligence. With 370 active warships and a rapidly expanding network of deep-water ports across the Indo-Pacific, China currently commands the world's largest and most technologically advanced navy. Thanks to AI-enhanced shipbuilding systems, China can design, assemble, and launch warships about 4 times faster than in the US. Compared to the American military, which only commissions about 10 ships annually, the Chinese Navy can manufacture around 40 to 50. Not only that, but these warships are also equipped with cutting-edge AI systems capable of detecting threats faster and executing autonomous targeting decisions with a higher degree of accuracy. On the other hand, despite being the pioneers of drone warfare for over 2 decades, America's currently remotely piloted systems are becoming increasingly outdated when compared to those in China. While the Asian giant deploys autonomous drones capable of real-time decision-making and AI-guided targeting, the US still relies heavily on operator control and the need for human input to drive satellite communication, making its use of drones far more inefficient. In addition, China has also become the world's leading manufacturer and exporter of combat drones, supplying over 280 units to 17 countries worldwide and having a manufacturing capacity of over 100,000 drones per year. That's over 20 times more than the US, as the Americans can only manufacture around 20,000 drones annually and can export no more than 12,000 to only 2 countries, France and the United Kingdom. If that weren't enough, in 2021, China shocked US officials by launching a hypersonic glide vehicle that circled the entire circumference of the Earth before hitting its target. This test demonstrated that China's hypersonic systems are integrated with AI to dynamically adjust trajectories mid-flight, making them almost impossible to intercept. As surprising as it might sound, the US is still in the testing phase regarding hypersonic technology, and the military does not even have an operational hypersonic missile ready to attack in its arsenal. However, while drones, warships, and hypersonic missiles require the break of a war to reveal how dominant China has become in these areas, cyber warfare is a battlefield that is fought on a daily basis. In 2024, China restructured its cyber forces by establishing the PLA Cyberspace Force, a centralized military branch in charge of launching offensive cyberattacks, real-time espionage, and integrating its latest AI developments into its technological operations.
China's cyber program is by far and away the world's largest, bigger than that of every major nation combined.
Over the past 10 years, Chinese cyber units have carried out some of the largest and most sophisticated intrusions in modern history, from infiltrating the Office of Personnel Management and stealing over 22 million sensitive records, to compromising Microsoft Exchange servers and penetrating critical infrastructure all throughout the West. But the question is, why? Why can the Chinese military use more advanced and sophisticated AI than the United States? And how has the most technologically advanced country fallen behind a state that for decades relied on copying its innovations? The answer to this question can be divided into two different reasons. Firstly, it's because of data. Since China is a centralized authoritarian regime, the government can collect massive amounts of civilian and military data without legal or ethical constraints. By having access to more real-time information on human behavior and communication patterns across both civilian life and military systems, the Chinese are able to train more accurate models faster and flawlessly integrate them into AI military applications. Meanwhile, in the United States, data is scattered across hundreds of private companies, local jurisdictions, and federal agencies, each governed by privacy laws, internal policies, and competing interests. Due to strict regulatory oversight, American companies and military agencies can't train or deploy models at the same scale, or with the speed needed to keep up with China's rapid integration. This takes us to the second reason, centralized coordination. Because the Asian giant is state-controlled and strategically unified, they are able to develop technologies rapidly and deploy them without bureaucratic delays, thanks to a strategy called military-civil fusion, which blurs the line between commercial innovation and military advancements. The government ensures that any technological breakthrough in the civilian sector is directly channeled into the military. This means that a breakthrough in commercial AI or robotics can be turned into a weapon almost overnight, and entire industries can be pushed toward military goals without any debate or delay. In America, AI development is dispersed across various private companies and government departments. Unlike in China, US tech companies aren't required to collaborate with the military, and each government agency operates with its own rules, timelines, and priorities. This means that their military contracts, the official agreements between the government and private companies to develop or supply new technologies, often take years to be approved. Procurement systems are outdated, R&D budgets are frequently stalled by shifting political priorities, and startups with groundbreaking innovations struggle even to get a foot in the door. The approval process is so complex and bureaucratic that many cutting-edge tools never make it past the paperwork, and by the time a technology is approved, it's often outdated. Palmer Luckey, a leading defense entrepreneur and the founder of Anduril, a company that builds autonomous systems for the US military, bluntly described the problem in a recent TED Talk.
This is the war US military analysts fear most. Not just because of outdated technology or slow decision-making, but because our lack of capacity, our sheer shortage of tools and platforms means we can't even get into the fight.
This raises the question, if China is so ahead of the US in the AI arms race, how can the US possibly win if a war over Taiwan breaks out? Despite China's lead in the AI military arms race, the US military is still the most powerful in the world, with over 750 military bases worldwide, the highest military budget in the world, and a training division producing over 60,000 soldiers annually. It operates on a scale no other military can reach. Backed by its nuclear triad, a combination of land-based missiles, submarine-launched warheads, and strategic bombers located in 14 countries around the world, it holds a level of strike power that neither Russia nor China has been able to match.
The land-based ICBMs are America's first and fastest line of defense.
Defense experts say Beijing's current underwater fleet has some crucial vulnerabilities.
And this is, in fact, a serious concern for the Chinese.
However, as we explored in the previous chapter, China's development in artificial intelligence is changing the balance of power between these two countries. Given how fast-moving and disruptive this technology is, what is considered the most dominant force today may no longer be in control in a few years. It is like showing up to a chess match thinking you're playing with the most powerful pieces, only to realize your opponent is rewriting the rules. This is why China believes it could take over Taiwan by 2027. It's not because it sees itself as catching up with the US on all military fronts, but because AI modernization could allow it to initiate and control the conflict in ways that don't involve a full-out attack between the two global superpowers. We'll explore what the breakout of a potential AI war over Taiwan would look like in the last minutes of the video. But before we go there, we must answer the question, given the lack of data and their inefficient military bureaucracy, how can the US adapt to the accelerating pace of AI-driven military innovation in China and prevent a possible war for Taiwan? The answer lies in understanding the differences between countries in the tech industry. In today's tech industry, China is able to outproduce the US by sheer scale, investing billions into hardware, infrastructure, and mass manufacturing. With state-owned enterprises, unlimited government backing, and a vast pool of low-cost labour, Chinese tech firms can flood markets with devices and platforms faster than anyone else. However, due to its copy-first mindset and top-down design culture, China is still catching up on original, top-tier innovations, an area where American tech companies have dominated for decades.
The US military likes to buy things. The whole contract mechanism is set up to buy things. And just now, I think they're starting to catch up to the idea that a software package can be just as powerful as the thing that it comes in.
To win a potential war over Taiwan, private American military defense companies need to bridge the gap between innovation and deployment, and decrease the lag between building new systems and getting them into the hands of soldiers and defense operators. By doing so, they can restore momentum and reinforce US defense in the AI arms race. Fortunately, companies like Palantir, Anduril, and Shield AI are doing just that.
We need a different kind of US military and a different approach to military power.
Anduril, I think, is a healthy revolution for the defense industry.
We are designed completely differently as a company. We are designed like a high-tech company.
These private product defense companies are on a mission to build next-generation weapons capable of surpassing China's rapidly expanding military capabilities.
In a conflict where our capacity is our greatest vulnerability, what we really need is a production model that mirrors the best of our commercial sector: fast, scalable, and resilient. We know how to win like this. We rallied our industrial base during World War II to mass produce weapons at an unprecedented scale. It's how we won. The Ford Motor Company, for example, produced one B-24 bomber every 63 minutes. But to actually achieve the benefits of these mass-produced systems, we need them to be smarter.
Despite the optimistic momentum they have sparked in the US military defense thanks to the efforts of private defense product companies, the future is still uncertain. As China scales its military faster than ever and continues to fuse its tech and defense sectors, the balance of power in the Indo-Pacific could shift before the US has time to adapt. As Palmer described in his TED Talk, Taiwan is still at risk of being conquered by China if the US is not able to match China's pace as the AI arms race continues to develop.
I want you to imagine something. In the early hours of a massive surprise invasion of Taiwan, China unleashes its full arsenal. Ballistic missiles rain down on key military installations, neutralizing air bases and command centers before Taiwan can fire a single shot. The People's Liberation Army Navy moves in with overwhelming force, deploying amphibious assault ships and aircraft carriers, while cyberattacks cripple Taiwan's infrastructure and prevent emergency response. The Chinese rocket force's long-range missiles shred through our defenses. Ships, command and control nodes, and critical assets are destroyed before they can even engage. The United States attempts to respond, but it quickly becomes clear: we don't have enough. Not enough weapons, not enough platforms to carry those weapons. American warships, too slow and too few, sink to the bottom of the Pacific under anti-ship missile swarms. Our fighter jets, piloted by brave but outnumbered human pilots, are shot down one by one. Taiwan falls within weeks, and the world wakes up to a new reality, one where the world's dominant power is no longer a democracy.
On the other hand, if companies like Palantir, Anduril, and Shield AI can equip the US with scalable, ready-to-deploy systems while avoiding the bottlenecks and bureaucratic delays holding them back today, the outcome could look very different.
But imagine a different scenario. The attack might begin the same way. Chinese missiles streak towards Taiwan, but this time, the response is instant. A fleet of AI-driven autonomous drones launch within seconds. Swarming together in coordinated attacks, they intercept incoming Chinese bombers and cruise missiles before they ever reach Taiwan. In the Pacific, a distributed force of unmanned submarines, stealthy drone warships, and autonomous aircraft strike from unpredictable locations. Our AI-piloted fighter swarms engage Chinese aircraft in dogfights, responding faster than any human possibly could. On the ground, robotic sentries and AI-assisted long-range fires halt China's amphibious assault before a single Chinese boot reaches Taiwan shores. By deploying autonomous systems at scale, we prove to our adversaries that we have the capacity to win. That is how we reclaim our deterrence.
There is no doubt that both global superpowers are racing toward a future shaped not by bombs or bullets, but by code and computation. A future where military advantage will depend less on who has more troops or bases, and more on who can deploy more intelligent systems faster. What's at stake isn't just territory or influence, but the foundation of global power in the decades to come. Amidst the threat of war, we can't help but wonder, who will be the winner of the most dangerous arms race in history? Authoritarianism or capitalism? The US or China?